Thank you. I appreciate that. And we're going to have to get together again in a little bit to when we see where all this goes.
Well, I'm going to order by this weekend. I'm going to order your new book. I'm going to read it. Then I'll have to get you back on it because I'm going to have a lot of questions to ask.
There you go. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Calvin, you take care.
Always a pleasure,
Y'all
Calvin.
too.
Okay,
My pleasure.
You have a great evening.
You too. Thank you.
Well, James, I think that was a very good interview. Hey, we're going to go on break, and then we're going to have Sam on for the last half an hour, and we're going to talk about abductions, or what we were talking about before Calvin was on. I'll tell you one thing: evil. See, he said it, and he's not the only one, that has been abducted. It doesn't say they're not evil.
I agree. Totally.
While looking at Earth's history, I sometimes get uptight when reading all those faith-based books all claim to get it right. In volumes of religious texts which have their own agenda, there lies a silver thread of truth mixed in with propaganda. Be careful what you say to those with whom you'll be at odds, who've taken on the dogma in the pantheon of gods.
Doesn't matter if you're Christian or if Islam or Hindu. Your horizons need to open to a universal view. The dynamics of change in an endless cosmic sea all need to be a part of your mind's reality. There's been more than one intrusion. We finally check the odds of rules and competition in the pantheon of gods.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. And thank you.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
That is me. Boy, I'll tell you what, it's going to rain here at the compound tonight. Been really chilly, too. I can tell you that I actually been running the heat. I told my wife today I'm going to buy an electric blanket. I just need it as some type of security. I don't know. UFOs and abductions. I tell you, I'd be, if I was abducted, James, I would be scared to go bed at night because there, when you're sleeping, you have no control. I mean, you can't run away. You can't do anything. And they could just take you. And a lot of abductions happen when people are sleeping at night.
I know, and it's kind of, I know he says he gets up at 11 to 5 during the dark hours a lot, and I kind of wonder subconsciously if it has something to do with, fear of them coming to get you at night. It's scary stuff.
Could you imagine you're telling your wife, though, you're going fishing. You leave the house around 10 o'clock. You get your boat in the water by 11 o'clock, and you're out there fishing. And you lose not an hour, not 2 or 6. It's now, 3 o'clock in the morning? How can you explain that? I mean, you could have a brain fart, but that's not possible that many hours. Something happened to him. I mean, it's scary.
Yeah, that's like 15, 16 hours. That's a lot of missing time. And, I bet with regression, maybe I bet he's been abducted a few more times. Truth be told, and maybe he just don't remember. Maybe he don't want to. I can't say as I blame him.
Or maybe he knows and he doesn't want to talk about it. But you think about that many hours being abducted. What could they do? I mean, it's not like you're abducted for an hour or two. I mean, that's a long time to be, taken aboard a craft. And, who knows what they did to him.
I'm telling you, that's enough time to transplant your blood and do all kind of stuff to you. My goodness, that alone would be enough to really set you back, just knowing that you've got 15 hours missing time with nefarious people doing nefarious things to you. Ouch.
Well, it's no worse than what our government did in the early 60s. That in the grade schools, they would send dentists or so-called dentists to the grade schools and give you unlabeled toothpaste, and they would give you a toothbrush as a reward, and you'd stand in a big long line of a couple hundred kids to get your toothpaste, and they would look in your mouth, and then you didn't see them again for about a month or two, and then they would come back and they'd look in your mouth and give you another tube with toothpaste. Years and years go by and find out, well, the government was giving irradiated toothpaste to kids to see what happened to their mouth and how it would affect their health. I guess the same way they were dropping irradiated, whatever toxins from the sky or putting it in the drinking water. That's all around the 50s and the 60s, early 60s, because they were testing to see if something ever happened with another country, what results would happen. I tell you, that is really scary.
That's some evil stuff right there. And even when we was testing our nuclear weapons, we would put our soldiers out there to witness them, and then we'd have them downwind of it, and then watch it with watch it to blast and see how close they could get and all this stuff. Truth be told, I bet a lot of them soldiers got cancer.
Oh, James, that a lot of them did. They gave them basically sun goggles, right? And they stood there to watch the blast, right? And they were all excited to watch it. The same way in the Pacific when they did some of the nuclear detonations of a ship, okay? They had sailors and all these people on deck watching it, right? And then, 5-10 years later, a lot of these people would come down with leukemia. They would come down with all kinds of cancers. And you know what? The VA and everybody else just brushed it off. But do you think all these people that got irradiated when all these tests, it was healthy for them? I think the scientists knew and that, what? They were using them as guinea pigs.
Exactly, and I think that's what aliens are using us for a lot of times, as guinea pigs.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. Now, do you believe me about those gators could swallow a human? A 400-pound pig, one gulp, gone.
Oh, yeah, I've seen gators. I was in Florida one time up to my waist fishing. I seen about a 10-footer go by, and I was like, time to get out of the water. Yeah,
well, you're lucky you got out of it. Now, Sam, are you back with us?
Yes, I am, Gary. How you doing, Charles?
So what did you think of Calvin? I mean, isn't it kind of scary when you think about abductions?
Yeah, I was paying attention to most of that conversation, and his experience is pretty specific. I mean, you have to ask yourself, if someone goes through such elaborate detail, if it wasn't true.
Well,
you know what I mean?
But there's witnesses that come forward about when him and his friend were on that dock that, started...
Well, that makes it that makes it even more... that makes it even more credible. I'll tell you what. It's just... and there's so many other people that probably have not come forward because of that.
I think about 11...
They are coming forward now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think there's been about 11 people has come forward, and a couple people came forward right after it. But then again, too, the Coast Guard came out and found something underwater. It was moving, and, that was documented. So something, I believe his story 100%. But you notice what he said? I didn't even prod him at all for it. He used my favorite word, evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another thing that he kind of validates what I've always said, too, was I think there's different races of aliens out there, because I asked him, have talked to other abductees, any similar beings, and he says he's kind of one of a kind, So I think that kind of proves there's all kind, and that's scary too. You've got all kind of different races of aliens out there doing with their own agendas.
Well, I think that's what's scary.
Absolutely.
Kind of wondering why they targeted him in the first place. It just in the right place at the right, or rather the wrong place at the wrong time.
Isn't that how it is?
Be picked up.
They were on a dock. They were near a shipyard, and they were out in the middle of nowhere, and it was getting dark, or it was dark. Hey, I guess it's a good place to snatch some people, isn't it?
Sure is. Look at Travis Walt the same way. I think he kind of ran into kind of same scenario, just wrong place at the wrong time. Unless, truth be told, who knows? Maybe Calvin's been abducted all through his life and he just don't remember.
That's where that missing time thing comes in. I've talked to several people that had, even locally here, that's had the experience of missing time, and the person's boyfriend obviously is regularly abducted by the Greys. So I'm very intrigued to get that interview with these people, with this couple. But this one gal, she walked down a trail, and of course she's kind of associating that with Bigfoot maybe, but heard 3 knocks, and then the next thing she knows, 5 hours have passed by instantly. Walking down on the other side of town, coming back the other direction. Have no knowledge of anything that's happened in between time.
That's what's scary.
Go ahead.
No, I said that's what's really scary.
What do you chalk that up to? Sometimes, the Bigfoot did it. Well, no, I don't know. That's why sometimes I kind of mix up the issues with Bigfoot and cryptids. Sometimes has a tie-in with UFOs or perhaps the abduction situation. And obviously she seems to be okay and everything, but there's no real way of knowing if there's, going back to this whole implant thing, the implant issue. Is there something that they have implanted in them, or why are they targeted? Or are they of a particular bloodline that they are targeting the abductions for? So that's another important issue. It might be
go ahead.
It might be a special bloodline. I know there seems to be some issues, some stories associated with those that have Rh negative blood types aren't exactly from the human stock. And maybe it's just part of the, hybridization program from long ago. I know that sometimes they associate that with the royalty. The royalty seems to have the Rh negative factor.
Oh, yeah.
So it's something to think about.
It's something, but the thing is, it's so many people are coming forward about abductions. I mean, a couple of years ago, you didn't hear about as many. Now, I think there is a certain percentage out there that are claiming they're abducted that never were. They just want their couple minutes of fame. They want, to get on the radio, or they want to sell a book. But then there's other people like Calvin and so many other people out there. I truly believe something major happened because there's witnesses. I mean, everything from the Coast Guard to people coming forward that saw something strange. And it makes me wonder, undoubtedly he was implanted, because he was, like he said, when his second abduction, they probably removed the implant or did something to him. I would be so terrified, guys, if it happened to me. Every night I would go to bed. I would be scared because you have no control when you're sleeping. Okay? And it's scary because there's so many reports of people being abducted out of their beds. I don't know.
That's like Calvin talking about his sleep habits, and going to bed at 5 p.m. and then waking up at 11 p.m., I guess that's what he said, and stays awake until the following day, till 5 p.m. And, the time period, I always call the time period from 12 to 3 a.m. the bewitching hour. It seems like this is the prime time in the middle of the night scenario where a lot of these things will actually take place,
Well, I don't know. I think really, if somebody's been abducted, they need to go talk to somebody, get hypnotized, and clear out at least their mind and find out what was going